The Catharvian War Council chamber fell silent as the young cub bared its crystalline fangs at Emma Chen. The creature, barely past its second molting, stood no taller than her hip, yet its obsidian scales rippled with the promise of violence bred into every Catharvian for 10,000 generations. Emma simply smiled. Commander Jarek watched from his elevated platform, his four amber eyes narrowing as every warrior in the room, veterans of 100 worlds, shifted backward. Not in fear, he told himself, in tactical repositioning. Your human does not understand, Jarek growled, his translator chip rendering his words into flat English. The young one challenges her. She should retreat or accept combat. Harry Morrison, standing beside the commander, adjusted his glasses, a nervous habit that the Catharvians had learned to recognize as distinctly human. Oh, she understands perfectly. Emma crouched down, making herself smaller, less threatening. The cub's snarl intensified, its juvenile claws scraping against the obsidian floor. Around them, the assembled warriors, each capable of tearing through reinforced steel with their bare hands, watched with an intensity that made the air itself feel heavy. "Hello, little one," Emma said softly, reaching into her pack. Jarak's tail slammed against the platform. She reaches for a weapon, but Harry merely shook his head. "Just watch." Emma's hand emerged holding something that made no sense in a room full of apex predators, a protein bar. She broke off a piece and held it out, palm flat, arm extended but not threatening. The cub hesitated. Its genetic memory screamed at it to attack, to prove itself, to establish dominance as every Catharvian had done since crawling from their volcanic homeworld's depths. But something else stirred in its young mind. Curiosity, perhaps, or the first stirrings of wisdom that would take years to fully develop. It sniffed. Then, faster than most species could track, it snatched the food and retreated 3 steps. Emma smiled wider and offered another piece. "Impossible," Jarek breathed. "The young cannot be tamed. We teach them to fight from the moment they can walk." "You teach them to fight," Harry said quietly. "We teach them to choose when to fight." Over the next 10 minutes, the War Council watched in disbelief as Emma gradually coaxed the cub closer. She spoke constantly in that soft, steady human voice, words that meant nothing but carried everything. The cub's aggression faded, replaced by cautious investigation. By the time it was eating from her hand without snatching, several warriors had moved to the chamber's far walls. "This is why you terrify us," Jarek admitted, his voice carrying a weight that made Harry turn. The Catharvian commander's posture had shifted, from aggressive dominance to something humans might call contemplative. "We have conquered 73 species across 4 spiral arms. We have broken armies, shattered fleets, reduced civilizations to ash. We are evolution's perfect predator." "I know," Harry said. "And yet you humans—" Jarek watched as Emma gently scratched beneath the cub's chin, eliciting a sound no Catharvian had heard from their young in millennia, a purr-like rumble of contentment. "You do not defeat us with greater strength. You do not outsmart us with superior tactics. You do not overpower us with advanced technology." "No," Harry agreed. "We don't. You make us love you." The words came out like a confession. "You make us choose not to fight." How does one defend against an enemy that turns warriors into willing allies? That transforms conquest into friendship? Jarak's claws flexed against the railing. "When your people first arrived in our space, we prepared for war. We studied your history, the violence, the endless conflicts among your own kind. We expected worthy adversaries. Instead, you sent teachers, doctors, engineers. You offered to help us irrigate the desert continents we'd written off as wasteland. You asked about our music, our poetry, our young." Emma stood, the cub now following her like a loyal pet, its earlier aggression completely forgotten. She approached the platform, and Harry noticed that the warriors no longer moved away. They leaned in, curious despite themselves. "Commander," Emma said, looking up at the massive alien warrior, "may I tell you what I see when I look at your people?" Jarek nodded, unable to speak. "I see a species that survived conditions that would have killed us. I see warriors who protect their own with absolute devotion. I see beings who value honor and strength, who never break an oath, who face death without flinching." She paused. "I see people worth knowing, worth befriending, worth loving." The cub chirped and pressed against Emma's leg. "This is your weapon," Jarek said finally. "Not kindness, though you wield it like a blade. Not empathy, though it cuts deeper than any claw. Your weapon is that you see potential where we see only threat. You see tomorrow where we see only today. Harry stepped forward. The treaty you asked us here to discuss, the mutual defense pact between Earth and Catharvia. You wanted it because of the Vex incursion in the outer reaches. But you could handle them alone. You've handled worse. Yes, Jarak admitted. Then why invite us? The commander's 4 eyes focused on the cub, now curled contentedly at Emma's feet. Because in 10,000 years of conquest, we have made countless enemies and no true friends. Because we want our young to know a galaxy where they can purr instead of only snarl. Because you humans have shown us that the strongest warriors are those who know when not to fight. Emma reached up, impossibly brave or impossibly foolish, and extended her hand toward the 3-meter-tall apex predator. Then let's build that galaxy together. Jarak stared at the small, soft hand for a long moment. Then, with a gentleness that shocked his warriors, he placed his massive claw in her palm. And in that gesture, the galaxy shifted, not through conquest or domination, but through something far more powerful. The simple human conviction that even predators could learn to smile.